Good evening, vinyl community. Hi, hope everybody's doing really well out there. Yeah, this is I'm going to try and make this a fairly short video. I know I say that every time whenever I do these, and it drags on forever and a day. But there is always the button there, so you can slide and go if it's getting a little bit tedious and boring. But yeah, so I've just got back from my holiday or short break down in Bournemouth for 3 days, and yeah, so I've sort of accumulated quite a few vinyl finds over the last week or so, which have been bought from various shops. And yeah, so I thought it was high time I go through those and show them to you. So okay, they're a real mixed bag as is usual for me because my tastes are obviously fairly eclectic. Some are better than others. Some are incredible. Others are kind of fairly average, both in um, aesthetic and monetary value. So, but yeah, it's all over the place, and I'm not going to spend too long on them all. Otherwise, we're going to be here all night, and you're going to definitely want to be skipping. So I'll run through them, and yeah, we'll go from there. These are in no particular order of preference. Um, uh, yeah, so we'll just run through them. Okay, so this was just every now and again I go to my local village because I'm living here in Solihull now with my mum, and there's a little town called Shirley, which is sort of up on the main high street, about 3/4 of a mile from here. And there's a lot of charity shops, and every now and again I trawl through those shops. Normally it's the usual kind of rubbish that you see: James Last, Slim Whitman, uh, beaten up, classical, etc., etc. And yeah, I mean, this is okay. I don't know, but I actually saw two copies of this in two consecutive shops, miraculously. But yeah, this is an album actually that I think my sister had back in the day. And I never really listened to it, but I think somebody on the VC showed this a couple of years ago and said that this wasn't actually a bad album by this group. So yeah, this is The Plan by the Osmonds. This is a 1973 release, I believe. And yeah, from what I can gather, this is a sort of a concept album about sort of concerning their Mormon faith, which is sort of interesting, I guess, from that point of view. So but yeah, I mean, I actually spun this, and it's not bad. It's sort of quite progressive. Almost a couple of the tracks are almost kind of, dare I say, psych. I've heard that when this is shown before, I can't remember who showed it, but they did refer to this as a psych album. I probably wouldn't go so far as to say that, but there's certainly some interesting bits on it, and obviously it's all self-penned, and I would say that a large proportion of this transcends the usual kind of teeny bop kind of stuff that you would kind of expect from a group like the Osmonds. So yeah, not bad at all. As I say, the weird thing is that when I picked this up, I actually saw it in the next charity shop that I went into in virtually identical condition for exactly the same price, which was £2. So yeah, I don't know, serendipity. There you go. But yeah, so that's the Osmonds and The Plan anyway. So is what it is. Okay. So I've been going on a little bit of a soul kick recently, and have been into the Supremes, but I never actually got anything by this lady. This is Dinah Ross. and this is her 1973 album Touch Me in the Morning. Picked up a greatest hits of hers quite recently, and was really impressed. I mean, I've always liked that kind of Motown soul, but and particularly the Supremes, but never really picked anything up from Dinah Ross and her solo output. So this is in really nice condition. It's on the Motown label, still in the shrink wrap, and it has here specially imported by. It's got CSL and then 10p. I don't know whether that's referring to the cost of the import duty on it, but really nice condition. So it's there on the let's say on that Motown label, and yeah, this is a really great album. Touch You in the Morning and All of My Life, which I think were the singles of the first two tracks off this. But it's it's really really well recorded. She sings them really well. There's a medley at the end of this as well, which is quite nice. Yeah, great album, and it was pretty cheap, so happy to pick that up. Also at the same time, I picked this up, which is a later one of hers. This is Baby It's Me. Okay, and there's Diana with her faux fur. I don't know if that's a faux fur or a genuine fur. I'd like to hope that it's a faux fur. There you go. Okay, and this is comes with a no lyrics, unfortunately, but that's the inner sleeve there. And, on this later 70s Motown label, yeah, this is sort of a little bit more, dare I say, sort of commercial sounding. A bit more sort of disco-y, I guess, because of the era as well. Because it's 1977, so sort of fits in sort of very well with that kind of era. But yeah, it's not a bad listen. I don't like it as much as Touch Me in the Morning, so it probably needs another couple of listens to really, hopefully, get under my skin. But yeah, nice to have that in the collection. Okay, another cheapie. I see this album all the time, but usually it's completely and utterly battered. This is a nice copy of Commoner's Crown by the marvellous pop folk band Steeleye Span. Here in the UK, you see these albums all the time. Very common. Sorry, no pun intended. But yeah, I've got quite a few Steeleye Span albums because you can pick them up, like I say, dirt cheap, and they're usually everywhere, or in most independent record shops. You can pick them up second hand. This is 1975 release, and yeah, this is a nice album. It's got some great updated versions of obviously traditional folk songs, which is always the way with Steeleye Span. They didn't pen their own songs. They're all reworkings of traditional folk stuff. But yeah, I mean, Little Sir Hugh. We've got Bart Goes to Limerick. Long Lankin, which is a true story of a of a nefarious character weaseling his way into a Lord of the Manor's house, and with a false nurse, and murdering their baby child. So yeah, very happy subject matter there. But yeah, nicely done there. Very nice, recordings. Nice sound. Yeah, I mean, I like Steeleye Span. It's sort of catchy folk pop of the time. Some of it maybe sounds a bit dated now, but yeah, I enjoy listening to that. So, and it was very cheap. So, okay, this was probably the one of the best finds for me. Somebody who I've very recently discovered. This is a lady by the name of Susan Christie, and this is an album called Painter Lady. Now, Susan Christie was a sort of obscure American folk singer, sort of from the mid-60s, and she was sort of famous in inverted commas for doing a song called "I Love Onions," which is pretty forgettable, really. Well, I say it's forgettable. It's not the best song in the world. It's sort of probably the sort of thing that if you hear, it might be an earworm for the rest of the day after you hear it, but you'd probably rather wish that you hadn't. But then a few years later, she kind of got it together to produce this material that would be later released as this album, and it's absolutely sublime. This is just superb, sort of deep, considered kind of folk with a sort of acid edge, sort of quite heavy in places. Really, really interesting. All the songs are different, which is great because I love diverse artists with a sort of eclectic feel. The title track is beautiful with sort of almost like Nick Drake-esque kind of orchestration. And Painter Lady, superb as well. Really interesting feel to it. Does a wonderful version of the Johnny Cash song Ghost Riders in the Sky. Really, really interesting. Beautiful arrangements. And then there's this kind of epic on side B, which is called Yesterday, Where's My Mind? Which is just a kind of sprawling kind of long jam piece. Yeah, sort of spoken lyric, very moody, really, really excellent. And it's on this Finders Keepers label. There's the gatefold. This is the original release of this, which came out, I think, in 2006, which was released as a gatefold with a kind of biopic here. Subsequent releases of this were single sleeve copies, and yeah, but wonderful. On this, as I say, Finders Keepers label, and they've actually released it like almost on a kind of 78 with a kind of smaller label there, which is really interesting. And yeah, these Finders Keepers records are really interesting. They seem to be a label that specialise in sort of obscure artists where they've sort of found master tapes or recordings and sort of master them and put them together into sort of album format. Because I understand that some of the songs of this was never actually released at the time as an album, and these were sort of obscure singles that were kind of collated and put together to make up a sort of composite album. But it just flows really, really well as an album. And yeah, you have to listen to this end to end, and it's a fascinating listen. And she's a wonderful artist. So yeah, really glad to have discovered her. So yeah, that's Susan Christie and Painter Lady. Okay, sticking with the female artists and vocalists. This is an album that Ben pointed out to me that he wasn't actually sure that he was going to like, and we listened to it in the shop, and it's fantastic. This is called Sentimental Eartha. So this is Eartha Kitt, the prowess herself. Yeah, this is fantastic. Really, really interesting listen. It's from 1970. And by all accounts, this was an album that she recorded when she had actually been, um, uh, well, she was obviously successful in the sort of 50s and 60s in the US. But by all accounts, she said a few outspoken words at a dinner for Lyndon B. Johnson, I think, which was the American president at the time, and very much offended his wife. And by saying that, and that, whatever she said, I don't remember exactly what it was, but yeah, she became obviously was ostracized for that, and became virtually unemployable. So she kind of came to the UK to record this album, and yeah, it's wonderful. There's three Donovan covers on this, which she just completely reworks in her own style, and they're just fabulous. So that's Where You Love Like Heaven, Catch the Wind, and the last one, which is probably the best one, is Hurdy Gurdy Man. And she really, really, I, I wouldn't say let's rip on it, but just puts a completely unique spin on those songs. And I love it when people sort of reinvent songs. They don't just like record them the same as the you know as the originals. They really try to give it a different feel, and she certainly does with those. And yeah, this is really, really worth seeking out if you've not heard it. Great listen. Okay, changing it up completely. This is an album I sort of had heard a very long time ago, but didn't really recall it apart from sort of 1 in 10, the single off it. This is UB40's follow-up to Signing Off, the 1981 album Present Arms. Yeah, it's got a little bit of a kind of rip there on the sleeve, but this is, I believe, an original pressing. So we've got the inner sleeve there. Pictures of the band, and like the first album, this comes with a 33 RPM album, and also an accompanying 12-inch single as well. Yeah, fabulous stuff. Not hadn't heard this album for a very, very, very long time. I was very happy to reacquaint myself with it, and it was dirt cheap, like a couple of quid or something. So very happy to pick that up. Yeah, classic bit of British ska reggae there. Okay, these next two I was really, really happy to get. I wasn't intending to actually buy these, but Ben asked me to take these home and clean them. They're two quite scarce albums by the cult sort of English folk singer Bridget St. John. So we've got her two albums here. This is her 1971 album, Songs for the Gentleman. This is, I think, an original press with that kind of leatherette cover. Wonderful gatefold there with the lyrics. Yeah, this is absolutely just superb. On the original Dandelion label. Okay. Yeah, and he was actually looking to, because he bought these from a collector, and he was originally looking for quite a premium on these, but because they weren't in sort of tip-top condition, he asked me to take them home and clean them. That's the other one. This one is Thank You For. That's that Dandelion label there. I think Alan at Static Traveller, I seem to recall, showed this album a little while ago, and he actually said that he didn't particularly like it. I love them, to be honest with you. I thought the traditional song here, Lazarus, I thought was just amazing, and I love her voice and the sort of space in the music. Really, really beguiling, wonderful sort of vibe on both of these. I've only played these through once, so I'm not that familiar with them. But I guess on first listen, I probably prefer this one. But they're both really, really good. And as I say, he let me have these for what he actually paid for them, which was, I think, a lot less than what they can sell for. So I was delighted to have the opportunity to buy those. Okay, so changing it up again, bit of classic heavy rock here. This was a freebie actually. This is a NEMS later issue of Black Sabbath Volume 4. I've heard this album lots of times in the past, but I've never actually owned a copy. As I say, this isn't the highly sought after Vertigo Swirl edition, but it's the later edition with the kind of stapled in booklet there. I'm not actually absolutely sure if it's all there. Somebody who's familiar with this pressing, this vinyl copy, might be able to tell me, but Ben seems to think that it might not all be there. But yeah, what a fantastic album this is. I've always really loved Paranoid, their second album. Masters of Reality I was sort of less familiar with, but this album is just wonderful, absolutely fantastic. I just loved every single song on this. Wheels of Confusion, superb. Obviously Changes, the great ballad there, it was wonderful. Snowblind, the allusion there to cocaine, I believe. And obviously the wonderful acoustic piece, Laguna Sunrise there, from Tony Iommi on the acoustic, which always kind of reminds me of Albatross. But yeah, superb record, and very, very happy to finally pick up a copy of that. Okay, next couple. This one is one Van Morrison album that I'd heard one or two people talking about in the VC, saying that it was a bit of a kind of return to form, even though with the kind of 80s, forgiving for the sort of 80s production. This is Van Morrison, No Guru, No Method, No Teacher. I think this was Psych in the Valley who showed this fairly recently. Yeah, I hate those stickers there. I might try and steam that off. But this is superb. It's really Van's sort of very, very laid back, really nice feel. A little bit of kind of 80s production there with the bass and so on. But yeah, wonderful, wonderful songs. And the album just really flowed nicely, sort of a real Sunday afternoon record. Really, really enjoyed it. Yeah, I wasn't expecting to like kind of Van Morrison from this period because I love his 60s and early 70s output so much. But yeah, I was very pleasantly surprised and really, really enjoyed that. So sticking with Van Morrison, another hole in my collection. I used to have this on CD a long time ago, got rid of that and then never replaced it. So I was very happy to get a vinyl copy. This is St. Dominic's Preview. This is his 1972 album. yeah, I love this record. Jackie Wilson said, kicking it off, obviously the song that Dex's Midnight Runners made their own as a hit single in the 80s. But yeah, I love Gypsy. I Will Be There. The epic Listen to the Lion, and the live version particularly of that is, and Too Late to Stop Now is sublime. Title track, St. Dominic's Preview. Yeah, just the classic Van Morrison from that period. Delighted to have that. Okay, this was a new purchase. A lot of people have been talking about this on the VC, and I was kind of in two minds whether to pick this up because I had seen a few people reviewed this, but curiosity got the better of me, and this is Dylan's new album, Rough and Rowdy Ways. Yeah, I'm not entirely sold on this album if I'm completely honest. Obviously, I was familiar with the one that was released as a sort of single, the epic fourth side, Murder Most Foul. Obviously, fantastic lyrics. Yeah, real epic song. Very, very impressive. Impressive, but one track doth not make an album, methinks. And yeah, I mean, I can say Multitudes is quite nice. I think it was Mother of Muses. I think I quite like the atmosphere on that. It's okay. I mean, I've only played this through once, so I probably need to give it maybe a few more listens. But I'm not overly sold on this. Considering this is a kind of the critics have really, or certainly the the critiques that I've read on it have all been fairly favourable of this. I mean, I guess you have to forgive the fact that he's he's getting on in years, obviously, and his vocal range has gone more or less, and his voice is quite gravelly. I know James Griffiths commented and said that he's not particularly impressed with sort of latter day Dylan because of the sound of his voice. Yeah, and I'd sort of, I'd sort of almost be inclined to agree with that. But that aside, his lyrics are very, very good and insightful. And for me personally, I don't always listen to the lyrics because I'm so much more into the music. But with Dylan, I think you have to listen to the lyrics because that is the kind of the core of his being is his kind of social commentary and so on, and the fact that he is so eloquent, a wordsmith and lyricist. Yeah. I wish though with this, well, one gripe with this is that he'd actually, I mean, as sort of interesting as the inner sleeves are, I just think, well, could he not have printed the lyrics? That would have been nice, particularly given it's a double album. So yeah, there's the inner sleeves there. I'm sure quite a lot of you either have this or have seen this anyway. So yeah, so it's it's not bad. Like I say, I probably maybe am being a little bit unfair in as much as that I need to give it another listen. So that's Dylan and Rough and Rowdy Ways. Okay, now these next three were from a new shop that's opened recently in Solihull Town Centre. This is John, 6-inch pianist, told me about this last week in a comment, and I was obviously keen to check that out. So yeah, I went in, and a fairly small shop, reasonable amount of inventory, reasonable prices. yeah, I was hoping maybe to pick up some sort of more folky stuff, but they did have some quite nice Motown and soul and so on. So yeah, this is one that I didn't have in my collection. I'd got a best of retrospective on CD, but nothing on vinyl. This is The Temptations and All Directions. This is from 1972, is it? I think. Yeah, 1972. That's on the Tamla Motown label. And this has the classic 11.5-minute Papa as a Rolling Stone. Yeah, absolute epic classic song. Version of The First Time Ever I Saw Your Face, the Ewan McCall song that Roberta Flack has made obviously so famous. Haven't actually played this album yet, so yeah, anybody who wants to comment on this and who's familiar with this, I'd be interested to hear your comments. But yeah, I mean, Temptations, you can't really go too far wrong with that. And that was pretty reasonably priced, so I was happy to pick that up. This is really pleased to see this. This is an artist who's sort of label jumped quite a lot. And this is I would imagine is kind of a budget compilation of his. I've never seen an album of his before, so I can only assume from this that this is a compilation album. This is Ardeen Taylor, and this is Indiana Wants Me. Yeah, obviously, so you've got the map there. But I've never seen this record before. This is on the Music for Pleasure Sounds Superb label, which I mentioned is their budget label. But it's interesting because this is a sort of retrospective. You've got the sort of the fantastic hits here, Gotta See Jane, and Indiana Wants Me, of course. But then it's also got There's a Ghost in My House, which I think was one, if not his first or a very early single. This album's actually dated, I think, as 1972. If I've got that right. 71. Okay. So yeah, 1971. But then on the cover, it's got this sticker that says, including the new hit single, There's a Ghost in My House. So I can only assume that was a re-release of that